"Do not bid on the blue Rothko study," Amara Reed said, barely moving her lips as the auctioneer lifted his silver hammer beneath the chandeliers of Sterling House. Viktor Hale turned toward her with the patience of a man accustomed to being obeyed, not warned. Around them, Manhattan's wealthiest collectors watched a slate framed in midnight blue, while financial reporters crowded the balcony because Hale Meridian Group had announced a major acquisition that morning. Amara had entered the room in a tailored black gown chosen by Viktor's stylist, yet she still carried herself with the alert restraint of the personal maid who had spent 6 months learning every silence in his penthouse. Viktor had brought her because she remembered faces, habits, and the tiny emotional fractures people revealed when they believed service workers were invisible. The auction was supposed to be ceremonial. He would purchase one painting for the Hale Foundation, appear beside the board, and allow the markets to read stability after weeks of rumors about his shipping division. Instead, Amara saw a pattern in the front row. Marcus Vale, Viktor's chief financial officer, never looked at the painting. He watched 3 bidders: a widow from Boston, a technology heir from Seattle, and a quiet man holding paddle 417. Each time Marcus pressed his thumb against his cuff, one of them raised a paddle. Each time the price crossed a round threshold, the man with 417 glanced toward a private phone hidden beneath his catalog. Amara also noticed Evelyn Cross, chair of the auction committee, signaling the auctioneer to slow down whenever Hale Meridian's stock price flashed on a muted business channel behind the press balcony. The screen rose 2% as the bidding climbed. Viktor had not seen it because he was studying Marcus, who wore the relaxed smile of a trusted executive. Amara whispered that the bids were not about owning art. They were timing signals. Viktor's expression did not change, but he lowered his paddle. Across the room, Marcus's thumb stopped against his cuff. The bidder with 417 hesitated, then raised the price by exactly $500,000. The stock ticker moved again. Viktor asked Amara what she believed the signal meant. She said someone was using visible auction milestones to coordinate private trades without sending an obvious message. Viktor could leave, expose the room, or play along long enough to learn who was listening. She had also noticed that the widow never requested a condition report, the technology heir never consulted his advisor, and paddle 417 never once studied the canvas. Real collectors disagreed about beauty, provenance, and price. These 3 reacted only to Marcus. Their discipline made the room feel rehearsed, and rehearsals always depended on someone holding the script. Then the auctioneer announced that the next lot came from a shell charity linked to Hale Meridian's pension fund, and Amara saw Marcus look directly at her for the first time. Viktor did not confront Marcus. He placed one hand over the closed catalog on his lap and asked Amara to describe every person who had reacted when he withdrew from the Rothko study. Her answer came in calm fragments. Evelyn Cross had tightened her jaw before smiling. Paddle 417 had shifted his weight toward the aisle. Marcus had looked at the market screen rather than the auctioneer. A junior banker near the wall had sent a message immediately after the missed bid. Viktor listened without interrupting, then told Amara that the shell charity named in the next lot had been created to receive decommissioned corporate property before charitable resale. It should never have touched the pension fund. Amara asked whether Marcus controlled the paperwork. Viktor said Marcus controlled the people who prepared it, while Viktor controlled the signatures that made it legal. That distinction was the problem. The next lot appeared. A luminous abstract painting titled Night Crossing, donated by the Meridian Cultural Trust. The catalog valued it at $6 million, although Amara had seen a conservator's envelope in Viktor's study listing insurance coverage at less than $1 million. She reminded him of it. Viktor's gaze sharpened. He had assumed the envelope concerned another work. Amara said the cream paper had carried a crescent watermark identical to the documents tucked beneath Evelyn's podium. Viktor asked how she could be certain. She explained that she had cleaned spilled coffee near his desk 3 weeks earlier and moved the sealed envelope onto a dry blotter without opening it. The watermark had darkened under the moisture. Viktor had believed her then without asking questions, and that memory now became their first usable bridge. He instructed her to remain beside him, even when the seating arrangement required staff to stand behind the velvet line. When an usher objected, Viktor said Amara was his authorized advisor for the evening. The room heard him. Marcus heard more than anyone. The bidding opened at 2 million. Viktor raised his paddle at 3, then stopped. Marcus touched his cuff once. Paddle 417 answered. Evelyn slowed the auction. Amara counted 7 seconds before the stock ticker climbed. The timing matched the first lot. Viktor leaned close and said he needed proof that would survive lawyers, regulators, and his own board. Amara replied that human behavior could reveal where to look, but not replace records. She proposed that they identify the communication channel by changing the pattern. Viktor asked what change would force the hidden network to reveal itself. Amara looked toward the painting, then at the silent screen behind the reporters. The plan carried risk. If their unexpected bid merely confused innocent guests, Viktor would damage the foundation's credibility. If it exposed a hidden response, the response might disappear before they could preserve it. Amara therefore asked Leo, through a discreet message, to timestamp every market alert from that moment forward. Viktor approved the request without changing his expression. "Bid the wrong number," she said, "and watch who panics." Viktor raised his paddle at $3,250,000, an awkward increment that broke the auctioneer's polished rhythm. A murmur passed through the room. Marcus's fingers froze halfway to his cuff. Evelyn glanced toward the balcony, while paddle 417 lifted his catalog high enough to conceal his mouth. The stock ticker did not move. Amara watched the junior banker at the wall. He checked his phone, frowned, and typed rapidly. 10 seconds later, a private server alert appeared on the tablet Viktor used for board communications. A block of Hale Meridian shares had been offered below market through a dark pool, then withdrawn before execution. Viktor showed the alert to Amara beneath the catalog. The false bid had triggered a trade instruction, but the network had canceled when the expected round number failed to appear. That proved coordination existed, although it did not prove who designed it. Marcus recovered quickly. He leaned across the aisle and advised Viktor to stop improvising because reporters might interpret unusual bids as distress. Viktor replied that concern from his chief financial officer was always valuable. The words were courteous, but Amara heard the warning beneath them. Marcus looked at her and asked whether household staff now directed corporate strategy. Viktor answered that observation had more value than rank when rank became careless. It was the first time he had defended her publicly, and Amara felt the dangerous warmth of trust arrive before certainty. She forced herself back to the room. Evelyn announced a 10-minute intermission after night crossing reached $4 million without a sale. Guests moved toward champagne tables and private salons. Viktor guided Amara into a side gallery displaying unsigned sketches. He said the auction house maintained a secure bidding archive in the registrar's office, but entering it without authorization would destroy the usefulness of any evidence. Amara suggested another route. Every high-value bid required a funding guarantee. If paddle 417 was acting through a shell entity, the guarantee would expose the bank, beneficial owner, or account manager. Viktor said only Evelyn and the registrar could access those files during the event. Amara remembered the junior banker's reaction and described his badge. Silver edge, green stripe, initials DC. Viktor recognized the colors of Cross Atlantic Private Bank, where Marcus had negotiated a credit facility that afternoon. Before they could speak further, Leo Park, Viktor's forensic accountant, entered the gallery with a sealed tablet case. He said someone had attempted to alter Hale Meridian's treasury dashboard from inside Sterling House. Leo added that the attempted change concerned a liquidity reserve large enough to influence the acquisition vote scheduled for the next morning. If the reserve appeared unstable, lenders could demand new conditions and directors could blame Viktor for concealing weakness. Amara realized the auction signals were not an isolated scheme. They were part of a timed corporate removal. The login carried Viktor's credentials, and the security camera showed Amara entering his study the night the token had been copied. Amara did not deny entering Viktor's study. She explained that he had asked for the Navy ledger before a midnight call, and she had placed it beside his computer. Leo said the camera clip ended after 43 seconds because the feed had been overwritten. Marcus had already sent the fragment to the board's emergency committee, arguing that Amara might have copied the executive token. Viktor asked Leo whether the token alone could authorize the treasury changes. Leo answered that it also required a rotating phrase generated by Viktor's private device. Viktor kept that device in a locked drawer. Amara remembered something small. The drawer had been open when she delivered the ledger, although Viktor had been in the adjoining library. She had closed it because the brass corner caught her sleeve. Viktor said he had not opened the drawer that evening. The implications settled between them. Someone had entered earlier and arranged the room to make Amara visible near the token. Leo warned that the board would suspend Viktor's authority before midnight if the attempted alteration appeared connected to the auction trades. Viktor asked how much time remained. Leo said 3 hours. Amara looked through the gallery doors at Marcus speaking with 2 directors and understood the shape of the trap. If Viktor accused Marcus without records, he would appear desperate. If he defended Amara without explanation, the board would claim his judgment had become personal. If he abandoned her, Marcus would gain a convenient culprit and control the investigation. Viktor told Leo to preserve the camera fragment exactly as received and document its chain of custody. Then he asked Amara whether she wished to leave with legal counsel. The offer surprised her because it gave her a choice when pressure favored obedience. She said leaving would protect her reputation only if the truth emerged without her, and Marcus had designed the evidence to prevent that. She would stay, but not as a servant ordered into risk. Viktor accepted the condition. He asked what title she wanted entered in the event record. Amara set independent observer for Hale Meridian. Leo amended the digital attendance file and timestamped it. That small act changed her position from invisible employee to named witness. During the second session, Evelyn introduced a private sale option tied to night crossing. Marcus immediately recommended that Viktor authorize a guarantee using the same pension-linked trust. Amara noticed Marcus avoided saying the trust's full name. She also saw Evelyn rub the inside of her wrist whenever the discussion approached ownership records. Amara whispered that Evelyn feared a document, not a person. Viktor asked which document. Leo also warned that deleting the manipulated entries would make the dashboard usable again, but destroy the best evidence of intrusion. Viktor ordered him to preserve a forensic copy and leave the visible error untouched. Amara understood the choice. They would endure short-term suspicion to protect a truth that could be independently tested. Amara pointed toward a locked presentation case beneath the podium, where a cream envelope with a crescent watermark waited beside the sale agreement. The presentation case could not be opened without Evelyn's key, and Viktor refused to manufacture an excuse. Instead, Amara studied the ceremony around it. Every private sale agreement was displayed for witness signatures before being carried to the registrar. Evelyn would have to remove the envelope if Viktor appeared ready to sign. Viktor told Marcus he would consider purchasing night crossing through the Meridian Cultural Trust, provided all supporting valuations were presented at the table. Marcus's relief surfaced as a slow exhale. Evelyn unlocked the case and arranged 3 folders beneath the chandelier. The crescent-marked envelope sat on top. Amara remained behind Viktor until Evelyn invited witnesses forward. Then she moved close enough to read the visible headings without touching anything. The insurance report valued the painting at $900,000. A second appraisal, issued 2 weeks later by a firm called Vale Art Advisory, valued it at $7 million. Marcus's surname appeared nowhere in the ownership disclosure, but the firm's mailing address matched a renovated warehouse that Hale Meridian leased to one of his family trusts. Amara recognized the address because she had sorted invitations for a foundation gala there. Viktor asked Evelyn why the values differed. Evelyn said market interest had changed. Amara watched her pupils shift toward Marcus before the answer. Viktor requested the appraiser's methodology. Marcus interrupted, saying the foundation board had already approved it. Leo searched the public corporate registry from his tablet and found that Vale Art Advisory had been incorporated 4 months earlier by a service company used in Marcus's personal tax filings. The connection was strong, but Viktor still needed to link the inflated art price to stock manipulation. Amara returned to the auction pattern. The round bids had caused buying interest, while Viktor's irregular bid had triggered a failed sell order. She suggested that the inflated appraisal was collateral for a temporary credit line. Each staged bid made the artwork appear liquid, allowing the shell charity to borrow against it. The borrowed funds could support Hale Meridian stock long enough for insiders to sell at a favorable price. Leo confirmed that such a structure could operate through layered accounts without immediate public visibility. Viktor asked Evelyn whether Cross Atlantic Private Bank had issued the guarantee for Paddle 417. Her hand moved toward her wrist. Before she answered, the junior banker approached and quietly informed her that the guarantee had been withdrawn. Marcus stood so quickly that his chair scraped the floor. The reaction was too sharp for a man claiming no involvement. Viktor did not accuse him. He simply asked Leo to record the exact time. Then Amara noticed paddle 417 leaving his catalog behind. Amara asked the registrar whether paddle 417 had submitted a condition request before bidding. He had not. That omission mattered because the shell bidder was accepting millions of dollars in risk without inspecting the work. The purchase was never meant to close. Its purpose was to create a public price. Inside it was a handwritten sequence of lot numbers and price thresholds, ending with Viktor's planned maximum bid. The sequence proved that someone knew Viktor's confidential bidding limit, but it still could have been planted. Amara placed the catalog on the table and asked the registrar to seal it in a transparent evidence sleeve. Leo photographed it in place, recorded the witnesses, and requested building security to preserve the hallway cameras. Marcus objected that Viktor was turning a charitable event into a corporate spectacle. Viktor replied that the spectacle began when confidential limits appeared in another bidder's catalog. Reporters sensed the change and pressed closer, but Viktor asked Sterling House to pause public statements until the documents could be reviewed. He was protecting the integrity of the inquiry rather than using reputation as a weapon. Amara saw Marcus recalculate. He abandoned anger and adopted concern. He told Viktor that Amara had access to the household calendar where the bidding cap had been discussed. The accusation was plausible. Amara had prepared the study for the meeting and could have seen the amount written on the whiteboard. She answered that the cap on the catalog was not the final number. Viktor had revised it after she left, lowering it by $200,000. Leo checked the secure board notes. The catalog showed the revised figure. Only Viktor, Marcus, and Leo had received it. Marcus turned toward Leo, shifting suspicion with a glance. Leo remained composed and opened his access log. His copy had been viewed once from his office terminal, while he was in the auction house elevator. The terminal required a physical badge. Marcus said that proved Leo had been careless. Amara asked who knew Leo would be in the elevator at that exact time. Marcus said any staff member could know. She replied that only the host committee had received the staggered arrival schedule. Evelyn's face changed before Marcus's did. Amara understood that Evelyn had provided the timing, while Marcus had supplied the purpose. Viktor asked Evelyn whether her committee shared the schedule with Cross Atlantic Private Bank. She admitted sending it to the junior banker for funding verification. Leo requested the banker's message archived through the bank's compliance officer, who was attending the event. The compliance officer agreed after seeing the sealed catalog and contradictory appraisals. Within minutes, the banker's messages revealed coded instructions from an account labeled MV Office. Confirm each round threshold, release support orders after the hammer pause, cancel if Hale deviates. Marcus claimed the initials referred to a portfolio desk. Then Amara noticed the messages used the phrase Blue Room before every instruction. Viktor had named the private conference space Blue Room only that afternoon, after Marcus selected it for their pre-auction meeting. The compliance officer also preserved the message metadata before anyone could revoke access. It showed that several instructions had been drafted hours earlier and released only when the auction milestones appeared. The pattern reduced the chance of coincidence and established preparation, but Viktor still refused to call it final proof. The code pointed back to him, but one final question remained. Who had authorized the attempted treasury alteration using Viktor's credentials? Leo traced the treasury attempt to a temporary network node installed for the auction's private clients. The node had been registered by Cross Atlantic Private Bank. Yet the session used a device certificate from Hale Meridian. Marcus argued that a sophisticated outsider could have copied it. Amara asked Leo to compare the device clock with Sterling House's server clock. The difference was 11 minutes. She remembered the clock in Viktor's study had been 11 minutes fast for several weeks because the antique mechanism resisted adjustment. Viktor had joked that it punished late visitors. If someone recorded the rotating phrase beside that clock and later used the recording to prepare an automated login, the script might inherit the wrong timestamp. Leo said the theory was testable. He examined the authentication packet, and found that the first failed attempt had indeed submitted a phrase generated 11 minutes too early. A later attempt corrected the timing manually. Whoever built the script had worked from material captured in Viktor's study, not from the live device at Sterling House. The camera fragment showed Amara in the room, but the timing error suggested the copied material had been prepared earlier. Viktor asked household security for the study's maintenance log. It showed that Marcus had requested a private meeting there 2 days before the recording, while Viktor was at the foundation office. Marcus said he had been reviewing acquisition models. Amara remembered replacing a small flower arrangement after that meeting because one vase had been moved from the mantel to the desk. Beneath it, she had found a circular adhesive mark and assumed it came from a protective pad. Leo asked whether the mark had been photographed during routine housekeeping documentation. Amara said the residence manager required before and after photographs for valuable rooms. The image archive showed the mark clearly. Leo enlarged it and identified the dimensions of a commercial listening puck, used for conference transcription. Such devices were legal in approved meetings but required registration. No device had been registered. Marcus dismissed the mark as meaningless. Viktor did not. He asked the board's emergency committee to join by secure video and presented the evidence in chronological order. The staged bids, the dark pool instructions, the inflated appraisal, the coded messages, the altered camera clip, the 11-minute error, and the unregistered device mark. He also included the weaknesses in each point so the committee could see that he was not hiding uncertainty. Amara watched several directors shift from suspicion to attention. Then Evelyn asked to speak. She said Marcus had told her the price support protected pensions and that Viktor had approved the plan. She had believed the Blue Room messages were lawful confirmations. Marcus called her confused. Evelyn opened the crescent-marked envelope and revealed Viktor's supposed approval letter. No one in the room answered immediately. That silence gave the false letter more weight than Marcus intended. Amara recognized the signature as perfect, except for one detail Viktor never noticed himself. Viktor's signature on formal approvals ended with a rising line, but the letter in Evelyn's envelope ended flat. Amara knew because she had arranged hundreds of signed foundation notes and placed blotting paper beneath each one. More important, the paper carried the crescent watermark from the auction house, while Hale Meridian approval letters used plain cotton stock with a narrow silver thread. Leo scanned the document and found that the signature image matched a public annual report exactly, including a tiny printing flaw near the first letter. The approval was a reproduction, not an original. Marcus stopped speaking to Viktor and addressed the board instead. He argued that no direct evidence proved he had created the letter or ordered the treasury attempt. Viktor agreed. Then he asked the bank compliance officer to identify the owner of the MV office account. The officer said privacy rules required a formal trigger. Viktor could provide one by publicly challenging the transaction and accepting immediate review of his own accounts. Doing so would expose years of private business structures and weaken his control even if he was innocent. Marcus believed Viktor would protect secrecy. Amara saw the confidence in his posture and understood that this was the true psychological bit of the evening. Marcus was not betting on missing evidence. He was betting that Viktor valued power more than transparency. Amara told Viktor that the choice could not be made for appearance. If he opened everything only to defeat Marcus, resentment would replace trust later. Viktor asked what she believed he should protect. She answered that authority without a record belonged to whoever could tell the best lie. If he wanted a different future, he had to let the truth cost him something. Viktor faced the board and authorized full independent review of his personal holdings, Hale Meridian's pension transactions, and every acquisition account Marcus had supervised. He also waived confidentiality over the Blue Room meeting. The compliance officer activated the trigger. Records showed that MV Office belonged to Marcus's consulting company and had sent instructions to the junior banker from Marcus's registered tablet. The same company owned Vale Art Advisory and had arranged a short position that would profit when Hale Meridian shares fell after the false treasury scandal. The staged auction support had raised the price temporarily, allowing Marcus to enlarge that position before the planned collapse. Marcus said Viktor had no right to destroy years of loyal service over one misunderstood strategy. Viktor replied that loyalty did not convert deception into stewardship. He suspended Marcus pending regulatory review and asked Sterling House to preserve every record. Then, before the board ended the call, Viktor corrected the public record. Amara Reed had not been a suspect. Amara did not comfort Viktor or soften the consequence. She stood beside him while he signed the waiver, making clear that trust was not rescue from accountability. It was the decision to face the same record together, even when that record threatened status, privacy, and control. She had been the witness who made the truth visible. By dawn, Sterling House had become quieter than any room filled with reporters should have been. The auction was cancelled, the disputed painting was placed under independent custody, and Cross-Atlantic Private Bank froze the linked accounts pending review. Hale Meridian's board appointed Leo to lead a temporary forensic team with outside counsel. Evelyn resigned from the host committee and agreed to provide testimony, not because she was blameless, but because Amara's questions had shown her the difference between obedience and responsibility. Marcus left through the same marble lobby where he had arrived, smiling, accompanied by counsel and board representatives rather than admiration. No dramatic confrontation followed. The evidence had already done what anger could not. Viktor remained at the long presentation table while staff covered the paintings. He looked less powerful without the performance of certainty, yet Amara trusted him more because he had chosen scrutiny when secrecy would have been easier. He told her the board wanted to offer her a formal role in risk intelligence, with authority to review behavioral indicators alongside audit data. Amara said she would consider it only if the position reported through independent compliance, rather than his private office. Viktor accepted immediately. She added that she would not become useful decoration at meetings where people ignored her until a crisis. He promised written authority, measurable responsibilities, and the right to disagree with him on the record. That promise mattered more than gratitude. Weeks later, the investigation confirmed the entire structure. Marcus had used inflated art valuations, staged bidding, temporary credit, and coded market orders to manipulate Hale Meridian shares, while preparing a false internal breach that would remove Viktor from control. The board restored Viktor's authority under new disclosure rules that limited his unilateral power. He accepted those limits and converted the Meridian Cultural Trust into an independently governed foundation. Amara joined the new risk office, while continuing to help redesign household employment standards so staff observations could be reported without retaliation. Their relationship changed slowly. Viktor no longer summoned her with a message routed through another employee. He asked for her time. Amara no longer measured every word by the danger of disappointing him. She answered honestly, even when honesty made the room uncomfortable. Months after the auction, they returned to Sterling House for a public ethics forum. Night Crossing hung behind glass with its verified history beside it, stripped of false prestige. Viktor asked Amara to dance after the final guests departed. She said yes because no contract, crisis, debt, or title required it. Under the dim chandeliers, they moved without an audience, and the man who had once trusted only control followed the rhythm she chose. The verified painting later sold through a transparent process for its genuine market value, and the proceeds funded legal aid for pension beneficiaries affected by the scheme. Amara insisted that the program publish annual audits. Viktor supported the rule even though it prevented him from shaping the story around his generosity. Their first free step together was quiet, deliberate, and entirely their own.